careful not to leave the floor too slippery, or the Sheik might fall before he invests. The laugh echoed through the fancy meeting room, and Nadia, kneeling with the bucket in her hands, pretended not to hear. That humiliation hurt more than all the exhaustion she carried every day. No one imagined that the cleaning lady they looked down on held a secret powerful enough to change the course of that meeting, and the company itself. All it would take was one sentence, spoken in the right language, for the game to turn completely. Subscribe to the channel, because every story of humiliation hides a lesson the world needs to heed. AR. From the top of a skyscraper in Houston, the world seemed made of mirrors and arrogance. The windows reflected the brightness of the Texas sun, while inside, the executives hurried along in their crisp suits and self-important looks. In the middle of all that glass and steel, Nadia Collins went unnoticed. The bucket lady, as many called her, moved quietly, her steps light, almost respectful. Her hands, used to soap and water, also knew how to hold on to dignity. Every movement was a discreet dance between need and pride. She cleaned the floors, others walked on without a thought. She was an immigrant from Egypt, and for 3 years that building had been her own personal desert. Without realizing it, every floor she polished was a silent prayer for something greater. While the executives laughed loudly, talking about stocks and bonuses, Nadia went on with her routine. There was something poetic in the contrast, the sound of expensive heels crossing the marble against the soft rhythm of the mop moving in circles. She didn't have a golden badge or a title that impressed anyone. But she had a secret, a past no one could imagine. Before coming to the United States, she had studied literature and linguistics in Cairo. She was fluent in 3 languages, yet there, she was treated as if she could barely speak at all. That was the worst humiliation, not the dirt on the floor, but the dirt of prejudice. How many times had she heard, "Do you understand?" spoken slowly, as if she were ignorant. Nadia would just smile. She knew time, sooner or later, washes everything, even other people's pride. Mornings in Houston felt long for someone carrying dreams in her backpack and silence in her heart. Nadia always arrived before everyone else. She liked the smell of coffee drifting down the hallway and the sound of the elevator climbing floor by floor. They were small reminders that life still moved forward. Sometimes, she'd look out the window and imagine what it would be like to sit on the other side of that table. The same one she polished so carefully every day. Maybe that was the fate of many, born to shine, yet placed in the shadows. Without knowing, she had become an expert observer. She had learned that true power wasn't in titles, but in how one responded to pain. Every distant laugh from the executives sounded like an echo of disdain, but also like the prelude to a powerful lesson. That particular morning, something in the air felt different. The whole building was on alert, buzzing, as if something big was about to happen. Nadia overheard it from afar. "The Sheik is coming in person today." The Sheik, a millionaire investor from the Middle East. The kind of event that made executives' hearts race, and hers tighten with worry over every little detail out of place. She knew the floor had to be flawless. She cleaned slowly, focused, while catching glimpses of people adjusting ties and rehearsing their speeches. It looked like a movie scene. But none of them knew that inside that woman in a blue uniform beat a heart full of ancient stories, and a hidden talent that was about to become the center of it all. Between one swipe of the mop and another, Nadia watched the men's reflections on the polished floor. It was ironic. The shinier the floor, the clearer their masks became. "They think I'm invisible," she thought, "but I see everything, every gesture, every look." And she truly did. The fear disguised as arrogance, the fake laughter of those trying to seem confident. Meanwhile, the elevator chimed, announcing new arrivals, important people, hard-to-pronounce names, expensive colognes. Amid all that, Nadia remained invisible, yet fully aware. She knew the world was built on roles, and hers, for now, was that of the cleaner. But destiny has a way of playing with appearances. And when it decides to turn the tables, it never sends a warning. At the far end of the room, near the glass wall overlooking the skyline, she paused. She looked out at the city, and for a moment, the past came rushing back like a hot desert wind. She remembered her father, a professor of classical Arabic, who used to say, "My daughter, knowledge is like the sun. They may try to cover it, but it will always find a crack to shine through." Those words echoed in her mind as she put away the cleaning supplies. In that 50-story building, Nadia might have been on the bottom rung. But even so, her eyes still shone. There was something inside her that refused to believe this was the end of her story. It was as if fate itself was just waiting for the right moment to reveal her secret. In the main conference room, the clock read 9:45. The most important meeting of the year would start in 15 minutes. Nadia knew she had to leave before the CEO arrived, but there was still one last spot to clean, right beside the glass table. She moved quickly, careful not to draw attention. It was her silent territory, where every movement was deliberate. The sound of heels echoed down the hallway, a sign that the sharks were arriving. She sighed and adjusted her hair beneath the blue scarf. "Just one more minute," she murmured to herself. It was ironic. There, in a place where money could move mountains, a cleaner's time was worth less than a handshake. The first executive walked in hurriedly, still talking on the phone. He didn't even look at her. The second complained about the smell of the cleaning product. The third, more arrogant, told her to get out of there already. Nadia simply nodded, picking up the bucket. She was used to that kind of humiliation. She knew that, for many, a uniform meant inferiority. But deep down, she smiled, because those who truly know their worth don't need to defend it, they just wait. As the noise of conversation grew, her eyes caught the name printed on a folder on the table: Hale Group X Al Rashid Investments Contract. That name made her swallow hard. Al Rashid, a surname she had heard before, in another life. Her heart began to race, but she kept her composure. She cleaned the same glass surface again and again, trying to hide the storm rising inside her. That meeting wasn't just another corporate event, it was the collision of two worlds she knew well: the Arabic she spoke fluently, and the English she had learned to survive. It felt like pieces of a puzzle finally sliding into place. The secret she carried, the one no one suspected, was on the verge of being revealed. But destiny, as always, is patient. It waits for the perfect moment. And that morning, it had already begun to move behind the scenes. The sound of the main door opened way for an imposing figure. Mr. Brandon Hale, the CEO, entered with the kind of smile that only men convinced of their own power wear. His presence shifted the air itself. The executives straightened up. The room fell silent. And there, in front of everyone, he made the remark that would change everything. Nadia, kneeling by the table, lifted her eyes for a brief moment and met his gaze. What she saw there was pure arrogance. Fate had placed them in the same scene, and neither of them knew that, on that very floor she was cleaning, something far greater was about to begin. At exactly 10 o'clock, the sound of expensive shoes echoed across the polished floor. Brandon Hale walked into the room as if the air itself belonged to him. The tailored suit reflected the power he believed he possessed, and a confident smile seemed rehearsed in front of a mirror. The executives adjusted themselves in their leather chairs, ready to impress the most important guest of the year. In the corner of the room, crouched over a metal bucket, was Nadia, invisible, yet fully present. She was gathering the last of her cleaning rags, trying to finish before anyone noticed her. But he noticed. And that small detail lit the spark of a humiliation no one in that room would ever forget. Brandon looked at her as if she were something out of place. "Careful not to make the floor too slippery," he said jokingly, glancing at his colleagues. "Or the Sheik might fall before he invests." Laughter sliced through the air like blades. Nadia froze. The cloth slipped from her hands for a moment. The sound of their laughter echoed inside her, mixed with a distant memory, her father's voice. Words reveal more about the one who speaks than about the one who listens. She took a deep breath. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Sometimes, silence is the most elegant answer to ignorance. The Sheik hadn't arrived yet, and the tension in the room mixed with vanity. One of the men whispered, "She should be on the service floor, not here." Another laughed, "Maybe she's asking for a raise." The laughter swelled like a wave. Nadia bent down, picked up the cloth, and kept her head low. Inside, her heart pounded fast. Each laugh felt like a shove, pressing her deeper into invisibility. Humiliation tastes like iron, and she could taste it. Still, her eyes held a faint spark. Because there's a kind of strength that only grows when the soul is wounded in silence. Brandon turned toward her again, proud of his little show. "You're still here?" he asked, folding his arms. Nadia simply replied calmly, "I'm almost done, sir." The natural ease in her voice disarmed him for a second, but his pride was stronger than any discomfort. "Good. Make sure it's spotless. The Sheik doesn't like dirt." The word dirt lingered in the air, heavy, double-edged. Nadia caught the meaning. She knew he wasn't just talking about the floor. It was an attempt to reduce her to a stereotype, the kind of insult that wounds without shouting. But she wouldn't let him see the pain. She wouldn't give him that power. Trying to change the subject, one of the executives said, "Brandon, I heard the Sheik barely speaks English. That's going to be tricky." He laughed. "Tricky will be if he asks for coffee and this lady here doesn't know how to serve it." More laughter. Nadia lowered her head again. She wanted to reply, but held herself back. Silence was her armor. She knew destiny sometimes takes its time to deliver justice. While they basked in their vanity, she kept cleaning, as if preparing the stage for a greater act. The elevator dinged. The Sheik al-Rashid had arrived. The air shifted in density. The executive straightened up. Even Brandon adjusted his suit jacket. Nadia quietly stepped aside, moving her bucket toward the corner. The Sheik entered, accompanied by 2 aides and a translator. He was a middle-aged man with calm eyes and a steady presence. He greeted everyone with a polite nod, and when his gaze met Nadia's, he made a small gesture of respect. Something inside her trembled. Maybe he had recognized something. The silent language of humility. The meeting began. The official interpreter stood beside the Sheik, ready to translate every word. Brandon started his speech, full of enthusiasm and perfectly rehearsed numbers. He talked about profits, expansion, and promises. From her corner, Nadia watched quietly. She knew that kind of speech well, all shine, no substance. And ironically, the floor she cleaned reflected lies better than the mirrors on the walls. While the executives got lost in self-promotion, the Sheik's expression remained unreadable. He wasn't a man easily impressed. Then suddenly, the interpreter hesitated. His words began to stumble. One mistranslated phrase, one inverted meaning, and the Sheik's face hardened. Brandon looked around, nervous. "What did he say?" he asked, but the translator was already sweating, trying to recover. The Arabic came out confused, broken. The air grew tense. Nadia felt it, as if destiny itself was taking a deep breath, preparing for the turning point. She took a small step forward, almost without realizing it. The only sound was the soft ringing of her cleaning cloth. Brandon frowned at her. "What? Go back to work." But before she could move, the Sheik raised his hand for silence. His eyes were fixed on her. "Do you speak Arabic?" he asked calmly, in his native tongue. The question cut through the air like an invisible strike. Nadia hesitated, then answered in perfect Arabic. "Yes, sir. I've spoken it since I was a child." The translator's eyes widened. The executives glanced at one another, confused. And the Sheik smiled. For the first time since he'd arrived, he smiled. The silence that followed was thick, almost sacred. Brandon tried to understand what was happening, but it was already too late. Nadia stood up, and for the first time, she didn't look like a cleaning lady. She looked like someone who finally remembered who she was. The laughter from minutes ago now sounded like distant echoes. The Sheik tilted his head slightly, intrigued. Brandon, speechless, took a small step back. The woman he had just humiliated was about to turn the entire meeting into something none of them would ever forget. The air in the room grew heavier. The nervous interpreter stuttered, mixing English and Arabic, stringing together phrases the Sheik clearly didn't understand. Brandon tried to keep his cool, but his eyes betrayed panic. The executives shifted uncomfortably, afraid the deal was falling apart in front of them. Nadia stood silently, still holding the damp cloth in her hands. The ticking clock seemed louder now, marking every second of tension. The interpreter tried to fix a sentence, but the Sheik's expression darkened. He set his hands on the table and said something low that no one understood. It was the start of collapse, and, unknowingly, also the start of redemption. Brandon turned to the translator, furious. "Translate. What did he say?" The man, drenched in sweat, stammered, making things worse. Nadia's heart raced. She understood every word the Sheik said, about disrespect, lack of preparation, and his growing disinterest in continuing the meeting. Each phrase echoed inside her like a calling. And then, for the first time, she felt something stronger than fear: duty. That instinct that makes humble souls rise when everything seems lost. She took a step forward. Just one. But enough to draw every eye in the room. Brandon snapped. "You're still here? I told you to." The sentence hung unfinished. Because at that moment, Nadia spoke. "Excuse me, sir." Her voice was calm but carried something new: authority. Before anyone could stop her, she turned to the Sheik and spoke in Arabic. Her words came out clear, melodic, flawless. "Your Excellency, allow me to translate what was said. I believe there has been a misunderstanding." The silence that followed was almost poetic. The Sheik's eyes widened in surprise. "You speak Arabic?" he asked, still in disbelief. "Fluently, sir," she replied. The Sheik's gaze softened. He gestured for her to continue. Nadia took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and began translating each sentence with precision, emotion, and respect. The room, once filled with chatter, became a sanctuary of attention. Every word she spoke seemed to restore order, bringing sense back to chaos. Brandon, who had laughed at her minutes earlier, now watched silently, jaw tight. The executive sat frozen, witnessing what felt impossible. The cleaning lady spoke with the grace of a diplomat. And the most striking thing was the light in her eyes, the light of someone who knew her destiny was finally unfolding. The Sheik, captivated by her composure, smiled again. "Where did you study?" he asked in Arabic. "In Cairo, sir. My father was a linguistics professor." He nodded, impressed. "Ah. Then you are a daughter of words." Nadia smiled softly. "And now, just someone trying to serve with dignity." Her answer echoed like a lesson no one expected to hear. One of the executives swallowed hard. Brandon looked away. For the first time, he seemed small. The entire atmosphere had changed. It was no longer a meeting, it was a moment of redemption. As she translated, Nadia chose every term with care, preserving not only meaning but also emotion. The Sheik seemed comforted, resuming the contract discussion with calmness. The executives exchanged stunned glances, realizing that a cleaning lady had just saved a multi-million-dollar deal. The official interpreter stood silently, ashamed. Brandon leaned toward her and muttered, "Go on, since you seem to understand." Nadia only nodded, without arrogance, without revenge, just focus. Because true power, she knew, lives in the calm of those who no longer need to prove themselves. The conversation flowed. In minutes, she had turned chaos into clarity. The Sheik laughed, gestured, asked questions. Nadia translated, explained, mediated. In that moment, she was no longer just an employee. She was a bridge between worlds, cultures, and values. Every word she spoke was living proof that intelligence doesn't wear a badge. Brandon watched, silent. His smile was gone. The man who thought he ruled the room was now watching his own pedestal crumble before the quiet strength of a woman whose name he didn't even know. And what was most remarkable, Nadia wasn't speaking to impress. She spoke because she understood the weight of every word. The Sheik sensed it. At one point, he leaned forward and said something that silenced the room. This woman understood more than all of you. Brandon tried to smile, awkwardly. But the compliment wasn't for him, it was for her. Nadia felt tears threaten to rise, but she held them back. She knew it wasn't a time for emotion, it was a time for strength. The executive's silence became an unspoken applause, the kind that only comes from people who have just learned a lesson. Brandon cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Gentlemen, I think we can move on." The Sheik raised his hand. "Yes, we can. But I'd like her to continue. She translates with her heart." The words cut through the CEO's ego like a blade. He forced a smile and nodded. Nadia responded with a respectful nod, stepping back into position. But the atmosphere had already changed. She was no longer the cleaning lady who mopped the floor. She was the woman who had just restored respect to that room. And without realizing it, she had saved a multi-million-dollar deal with something money could never buy: authenticity. In the next few minutes, the air filled with new energy. The Sheik laughed freely, charmed by the ease of conversation. The executives finally began to breathe again. Brandon, still tense, kept his eyes fixed on Nadia, as if trying to make sense of what he had just witnessed. It was like watching the world spin backward. The woman everyone had ignored was now at the center of everything. And as she finished translating a long technical sentence, something deep inside her whispered, "This is just the beginning." For a few seconds, no one knew what to do. The Sheik smiled in satisfaction, while the executives tried to recover from the shock. Nadia, standing beside the table, looked like a different person. The same woman who, minutes earlier, had been scrubbing the floor now commanded the room with serenity and presence. The Sheik spoke again, praising her command of the language and her clarity in translation. "This woman understood more than all of you," he repeated warmly. Brandon forced a laugh, trying to hide his discomfort. His pride burned inside him. And yet, he couldn't deny it. The meeting, which had been seconds away from collapsing, had been saved by the very woman he'd humiliated in front of everyone. The entire mood had shifted. What was once tense and heavy was now filled with curiosity and respect. Nadia translated calmly, with subtle gestures and a steady gaze that inspired confidence. The Sheik spoke of values, ethics, and vision for the future, and she conveyed every nuance with care. Brandon sat motionless, a mix of regret and unease creeping in. One of his directors leaned over and whispered, "She's saving us." But Brandon didn't answer. He just straightened his tie, trying to keep his composure. Pride is a heavy armor when you're standing before the truth. The official translator, ashamed, quietly stepped back. His papers trembled in his hands. Nadia glanced at him kindly and nodded, offering reassurance. There was no arrogance in her eyes, only peace. It was as if she understood that everyone has their own time to learn. While translating a phrase about mutual trust, she noticed something in the Sheik's eyes, a look of recognition, of seeing not just skill, but soul. And that touched something deep inside her. For the first time in years, Nadia felt her voice wasn't just being heard, it was being understood. The Sheik leaned toward her, speaking softly. "Have you worked here long? In this company?" "3 years, Your Excellency," she answered in Arabic. He frowned slightly. "Always as a cleaner?" Nadia smiled gently, without bitterness. "Yes, sir. But there is no shame in serving when one serves with honesty." The sentence carried so much dignity that one of the executives choked on his coffee. Brandon looked away, embarrassed. It was hard to face the truth when it came dressed in serenity. The woman he had ridiculed was now teaching him, effortlessly, the true meaning of respect. The meeting went on for over an hour. Every point of the contract was translated and clarified by Nadia with patience and care. The Sheik, now at ease, laughed and gestured as the discussion flowed naturally. The executives seemed to rediscover their own humanity. Her presence had transformed that cold, sterile room into something alive. The glass walls, once symbols of power, now reflected something greater, humility triumphing over pride. With every word, Nadia wasn't just translating a language. She was weaving invisible bridges between worlds that could never have understood each other on their own. When the final paragraph was read, the Sheik smiled broadly and stood. "Then we are in agreement," he said, extending his hand to Brandon. The CEO hesitated for a moment, stunned. Then he shook the investor's hand, trying to recover his composure. "It was a productive meeting," he murmured. The Sheik chuckled. "Productive, yes. But I must say, if it weren't for her, we would have lost everything." An awkward silence filled the room. Everyone turned toward Nadia. She simply bowed her head in respect. She wasn't looking for applause. What sustained her wasn't recognition, it was the peace of knowing she had done what was right. The executives began murmuring among themselves, amazed by the cleaner's fluency and composure. "How did no one know about this before?" one whispered. "Because no one ever asked," another replied. The truth was simple and cruel. Nadia had always been there, but no one had ever seen her. And that was the perfect portrait of the company, and perhaps the world. How many people spend their whole lives being judged by their uniform instead of their essence? The Sheik, unlike the rest, had seen what others ignored: character. And that small, invisible detail changed everything. Brandon tried to regain control. "Gentlemen, let's toast to success." The Sheik nodded, but before raising his glass, he looked again at Nadia. "To this woman," he said, "who translated more than words, she translated respect." The toast echoed through the room, soft, almost embarrassed. Brandon kept a forced smile, but his mind was spinning. Every laugh he had shared earlier now felt like a knife in his pride. Nadia stayed silent, discreet as always. But inside, her heart beat differently. Something had changed, and she knew it. As she quietly gathered the papers from the table, Nadia overheard the Sheik say something in Arabic to his aides. "Some jewels don't shine simply because they're covered in dust." Nadia understood. She smiled to herself, a small, grateful smile, like someone who knows a chapter is finally closing. The Sheik signed the contract, and the flash of cameras marked the moment. Brandon shook his hand again, this time with far less arrogance. "Congratulations, Mr. Hale," said the Sheik. "But the credit belongs to your employee." And those words were the invisible signature that sealed more than a business deal. They sealed a lesson. The meeting ended with restrained applause. Nadia picked up her bucket, ready to leave, but deep inside she knew the door she had always walked through in silence would never be the same again. While the executives whispered among themselves, she walked away down the mirrored hallway. Her footsteps sounded different now, steady, light, almost musical. In the glass reflection, she no longer saw a cleaning lady, but a woman who had reclaimed her dignity. And though she didn't yet know what would come next, destiny was already writing, letter by letter, the next page of her story.